Welcome. Uh, for those that don't know me, I'm Brock Murphy, one of the co-founders at ProTech. And today we've got Matthew Murray with us. And Matthew, why don't you just do a quick run through of your background real quick?
Yeah, so my name is Matt Murray, and I've developed something called curiosity-based thinking, and it's really just a product of my background from the son of two public school teachers, went on to be a two-time Peace Corps volunteer, and then worked internationally in education and writing, published 8 books on curiosity and science for kids, and getting people more curious about our world and using curiosity to not only stimulate learning and growth, but to guide it. And I host or facilitate in-person experiences using and demonstrating the power of curiosity and training curiosity-based thinking, and then work as a mentor with startups and other people looking to get more out of their curiosity.
Amazing. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers who come from schools would love to pick your brain on kind of curiosity and the impact of technology on attention spans and all of that. But today we wanted to kind of hone in on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And kind of what is ChatGPT? Could you kind of give us your 2 cents, your definition of that?
Yeah. So I always like telling people the old cliche is I'm technologically declined, so I can give you an answer on what ChatGPT is, but I like to shy away from the more technical answers because the answers are out there. I'm just not as qualified, or I don't understand as much. What I do understand is that it's AI. It's artificial intelligence. Artificial. I'll get back to the air quotes. Artificial intelligence that has been trained as a language model. So it's been trained in a way, the same way like when you're typing in an email or Google search and it finishes your sentence or your words. That's been trained for typing. This has been trained for more conversation, so that when you submit questions to it, it can respond in a kind of a conversational way. Now that's as technical as I can get. That's the technical answer. What ChatGPT is to me, or at least when I first discovered it and learned about it, it's it goes back to the air quotes I put on artificial intelligence. I go, this is accelerated intelligence, right? I keep going back to this is it is a conversation, and it's great because it's hard to be curious by yourself. That's one of the great things about curiosity is that you need to go somewhere with it. You need to search, for answers, search for other ideas, search for actions to take, and so on and so forth. So it's difficult to be solid. It's not a solitary activity. But what ChatGPT does immediately is it accelerates not your intelligence, it accelerates your capacity for curiosity. Because what it does is, curiosity is a system of spark, discovery, and then reward. And what it does is when you have that spark of curiosity, I wonder what if, or what would this look like, or what would happen if this happened, right? Or whatever. And then the discovery is the search for possible responses or outcomes. And then the reward is seeing that. Well, it used to be you have to do all these things to get that. The discovery process was the longest part of it. And what ChatGPT just did was shrink that discovery process. So you can go from wondering, the wildest, craziest thing, what would it be like to have, a conversation with Salvador Dali about baking cakes, and it's like, well, now you can, and you can have these discoveries that trigger additional curiosity or further curiosity because they're serendipitous, they're unpredictable, and then they become the reward. And again, that's what we tapped into years ago, a decade ago or so, with curiosity-based thinking, is that if you understand that there's this reward component to curiosity, then you can start training your curiosity to be curious. And now ChatGPT has come in to be a technology, in my view, is a way to facilitate this curiosity, to accelerate human curiosity in ways that could lead to greater intelligence. It could, I'm optimistic. I think it's going to lead to greater learning and actions. It doesn't mean it's a perfect technology. It still needs to be, rounded out and kind of shaped. But That's kind of what, to me, ChatGPT is. And it's to the point where I have to go days or something sometimes without even touching it, because I'll just be lost in it. It's like, you start going, oh, I can do this, I can do that. And then we're not even getting onto the other side of ChatGPT, which is the visuals, with the DALL-E and the image creations and everything else. Which, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's a long wandering answer for a very short question. But again, ChatGPT is, I think, more, it's so many things. Yeah.
no, you're right. I think you do a good job in that description, kind of highlighting. I always like to highlight the good, the bad, and the ugly of technology. And I think oftentimes we can lose the good and just be stuck on the bad and the ugly. And so I definitely think that the curiosity being sparked with ChatGPT kind of opens the door for some good to come out of it. And I think the wide range of kind of like you said, any topic whatsoever, whether it's write a book report on XYZ book and it'll push it out, to finding errors in code, like very wide ranging. And so from like a school perspective, and do you have anything to add?
Oh, you're saying code, and I was joking about being a technologically declined. The newest update on ChatGPT 4, the 4.0, I saw demonstrations. You could write on a napkin a description of a website that you want to create, and with that, it'll create the website for you. Like, it's getting that kind of, yeah. Anyway, so that it made me laugh. I'm still wrapping my head around that, but yeah. So I keep focusing on, I was an educator and a writer and all this, so I kind of have a very biased view or perspective that I'm always trying to, you can do other things than help you, come up with stories.
Yeah, no, totally. And so from an educator background, highlighting kind of some of the bad and the ugly that ChatGPT can create, whether it be cheating on a book report, cheating on homework, like what would you tell schools kind of, how do you combat that, or what do you think on that piece?
Cool. So great question. So I say, all right, well, it lets students cheat on all of this stuff. All right. And I say, all right, my response would be, it lets students cheat on all this stuff. So it's like, all right, we got to come up with so what you have to do then is you have to move, not the goalpost, but you have to move the goalpost in a positive way. You have to move. What are the goalposts? The objectives, right? So it really takes a rethinking of what school is, what learning is, the purpose of being there, how we're spending the time together. And again, now, that's the kind of questions that I always ask as an educator. I always try to push. As a I don't even want to say a progressive educator, as an innovative educator, right? Those are the things I always tried, at least in my own teaching, I always tried to work for. And that's why I'm excited now, because all those things just happened, right? All of these things that as an educator I wanted to get rid of, like teaching to the test, of like, multiple choice questions, about rote memorization, about, the list, right?
Yep.
Well, all these things are out the window now because ChatGPT just made them obsolete. So my response to educators should be the question. If you're saying, well, if you're focusing on students cheating on this stuff, then you're focusing on the wrong thing. And that doesn't mean, oh no, what do we do now? Right. It's a positive, because now you have an opportunity to recreate what you're doing in your classroom. You can find new purpose. You find new things. So if it allows your students to cheat on X, Y, and Z, then you need to give them new tasks. That's the short answer. Now, the longer answer, there's ways to do this, right? It'll take a little more time, effort, but they're out there. Yeah. And I was about to give you some examples, but I realized it's a long answer for a short question. Yeah. It's just finding new things to give your students that they can't cheat on. You start where ChatGPT allows them to cheat. That's where your lesson should begin, right? So from an English professor, if a ChatGPT allows your students to write a perfect 5-paragraph essay, okay, guess what? Day one is 5-paragraph essays. Well, day two is what you do after the 5-paragraph essay. It's like, what can you do beyond that, right? And so on and so forth. Yeah. So how do we refine that? Yeah.
No, that's a great point. And then from like a general safety of the student, are there any concerns there on kind of on that
That's a great
angle?
question too. Now, again, I like to put my biases out there, and my, you know, I can be biased and naive and or optimistic. I like to say optimistic over naive. Yeah, they're out there. And again, and I so I have a couple of thoughts on this. Yeah, there are dangers. There are, but you know what? That's a good thing. And maybe I'm going to show my age here. The entire world doesn't have to be nerfed. First of all, we need to have opportunities for failure if we're going to have potential for flourishing. Right there has to be like, you could go right, and that's the wrong direction, and bad things can happen. So I'm going to choose to go left. You know, I mean, we have to. And if we're not teaching our kids the ability to make these decisions or guiding them, then what are we teaching our kids? Like, what are they going to grow up to? You know, I mean, because life will throw you these. So that's one side. All right. Yes, there are things that could go sideways. There are dangers. Now, the other side is, and this is where I keep going back to curiosity, is, and curiosity as a guide. When you're curious, when you're truly curious, also optimistic, naive, these concerns aren't concerns. There's something to someone's genuine curiosity that leads them in directions, right? So we'll put those two things aside, and that's like the best case scenario. Now, I think what you're really getting at is what can we really do? Okay, that's all the fun stuff, but there are, again, as a teacher, that I think there are ways. Communicate with your students. Ask them, you know, what did you just search, right? Use it in class. Here's the other great thing as an educator you learn from first day of you know, education school, is modeling. Show your students. Don't sit at your desk and do it behind your screen while you're get up on the big board and show, this is what I'm doing. Like, oh, I searched for the wrong thing, or I did this, or, you know, this is how you do it. Show them how a responsible adult uses it, and I think people would be surprised how well they follow along.
Yeah.
And again, ask them, and don't, you know, ask them, and don't create shame around, oh, you shouldn't, you know, never do that again, or, oh, that was wrong, that was a mistake, let's learn from it, move forward. Again, maybe it sounds like I'm oversimplifying things, but you know, I taught in Korea for 3 years, and I'll never forget in a public school, one of the things I'll never forget was lunchtime, because I saw how old would they be? They're 5 years old, I guess. They're kindergartners, right?
Wow.
5 years old. I was teaching like second graders, but it was, you know, public school. And at lunchtime, they bring all the food to the classes, and they give all of the kids food, and they're kids eating with chopsticks and stuff. But then you see them, of course, they're 5 years old, so they're running around the hallways with chopsticks, like, and they're cleaning up the floor. So you have 5-year-olds running around the hallways with metal chopsticks on wet floors. Not to mention, when it's arts and craft time, they don't even give them scissors; they give them straight razors, right? And I'm fascinated by all this stuff, and it's like, and I haven't thought of this in 15 years until you bring this up, but we have the capacity to do, you know, you get what I'm saying, right? Like we don't need metal chopsticks running around on wet floors. But we kind of have that with ChatGPT to some degree, but with proper attention, with proper guidance, with proper everything else, I think we can navigate some of these dangers that may present themselves, physical or otherwise, in our classrooms. Yeah.
Yeah, and my mind was going to, like, a car can go 125, 135 miles per hour, but that doesn't mean everybody goes that fast.
No, not at all. Yeah.
And I also think one of the good skills that ChatGPT is creating is how to ask a good prompt, how to ask a good question.
That's what we need more of, right? How to ask questions. Yeah.
And anything to add on that piece?
Yeah, please. Yeah. In fact, you sparked something else, because I've actually been I have writing clients too. I work with writers and everything else. And I immediately started using ChatGPT to help some of my writing classes. And one of the fascinating things is, just like with humans, ChatGPT gets better with edits, with iterations. So one of the things is like, you know, how would you write an essay, or how would you write a blog, or, like, you know, about this subject or whatever else, and have it produce it. Yeah. And then before you don't just copy and paste and like, I'm done, but you regenerate. And I always tell people, and even myself, I regenerate at least 3 times. And then I work on synthesizing. I copy and paste. It's not, it's not magic. There's still a process to it, but I always, so as a writer, I like this because this is just the edit. I do this as a writer anyway. I write my first draft, and I write my second draft. You write these different drafts, and you put them together. So one of the things is it helps you write better questions. But again, if you do it right, it reinforces that need to reiterate and to get multiple data sets and then to synthesize that. Because it doesn't mean, sometimes there's going to be golden nuggets in the first generation, and there's, none of the 3 are perfect. You have to still kind of bring them together. And I think that is both helpful, but it's a great instruction, a learning tool, right? And if educators realize this, again, it's a great tool. Just forget, the goal is no longer the 5-paragraph essay. Now everybody starts with a perfect 5-paragraph essay. If your true passion is teaching, writing, and getting people to become better writers, this should be the best day of your life. Because already day one, everybody's a great writer. Now, how can we make them an even better writer? How can we help them find their unique voice? How can we help them with transition words? How can we do all of these other things that happen later on? Yeah.
No, that's interesting. And let's kind of pivot from a family perspective. You know, not only how can a mom or a dad unlock the power of ChatGPT in their own careers, their own profession, but how can a parent at home kind of guide their child into using ChatGPT in the most positive light?
Yeah.
Any
You know
thoughts?
what? I'm going to go right back to modeling. It's modeling. It's a perfect opportunity because again, I'm a parent, a new parent. He's still a little young. He's like 3 going on 4, but this idea of learning together, of modeling, right? And I could just see, so he's still on daddy, put something on YouTube and play it for me. We're still not at the sit down together, even at Google level, much less ChatGPT. But especially since it's new to all these parents, you're probably a little terrified as a parent. You're probably, I don't know what to do as a parent. You know what? Is maybe not in all cases. When you drive, you want your kids to know you know what you're doing. But it's good for kids to look at their parents and go, hey, look, they don't know what they're doing right here, but they're not freaking out, right? They're not doing something extreme, or they're not doing they're going to calm. They're going to look for trusted information. They're going to ask colleagues that they trust. Yeah, I mean, this is a perfect opportunity to teach through modeling, and to learn together. Like, this is a great opportunity. Like, and again, I'm the new parent, but what better thing is there than discovering things with your kids together, right? Oh, wow, it can do. We just found a new recipe for meatballs on ChatGPT, right? Yeah. It told it planned out a perfect family vacation, like in an itinerary and all of this. And you kind of have that moment, that aha moment together. I think that's great. And also, they look, mom and dad aren't looking up all this ridiculous stuff. They're not learning how to do all that. Like, adults don't waste their time on stuff like that. And I don't even want to say it out loud because yeah. So, but you get the idea. It's like, this is how adults use these tools, and it can be fun, or it could be insightful, it could be helpful, and then putting it to practice. I think that would be my approach.
Yeah, it's really kind of like having the world at your fingertips in a way.
Yeah.
And the power in information.
Yeah. And there's going to be new technology that comes down the pipe, both to the parents and to the kids. And I think being able to, and again, maybe the baby boomers could have been better at this. I don't want to slam generations and anything else, but being able to admit, like, I don't know, like, hey, look, there's something coming on, and we don't know, but we're not going to freak out. I think that's a healthy human response that we're oftentimes not taught, right? We're either taught or shown or modeled, like, this figure or this person knows everything. We just follow them and they'll do the right thing and whatever else. And just knowing that, hey, sometimes there's stuff that there isn't a clear answer, or that we need to create the answer on our own, that we need to kind of come up with it. I think it's again, I'm an optimist, so I get in trouble with this a lot, but I think it's a fantastic opportunity to learn together, to become stronger families, to say, look, we're going to use this technology to bring us together, as a family, but also how we understand the world and navigate the world. Because this is world changing. Like
Yep.
we, it's going to be radical. It's going to be, I think, yeah.
No, and I think one of the main issues that I've seen with it lately is kind of that there may be a little bit of bias in the data, and
Yeah.
sometimes it strays away from kind of
Mm.
very polarizing topics, which is
Yep.
good in this case when you're dealing with students in schools. Um, but any thoughts on kind of the data bias that there
Yeah,
might
it is,
be?
and it's a concern, especially when you see how things like even like Wikipedia in the recent years have gone from unbiased to biased, like
Yeah,
and not to mention others, and but in some ways, I think that's a good thing, and it's good because now when people are aware that things like Wikipedia, even the New York Times, and everything else can become super biased, it's like now we know. So
yeah, yeah,
now I think, and again, maybe I'm optimistic here, but maybe now people kind of, there's already a baked in skepticism or kind of shield on when they go to something from, because we all know Google's bias and everything else.
yeah.
Like maybe so one side is of education. All right, this is something educators should be. I wish the educators were doing this. I was preaching this a decade ago with even the social media, the Facebook and everything else, is we should be teaching, instead of making it all illegal and all this other stuff, we should be teaching at a very early age in schools. Like, hey, look, when you click on something on Facebook, it sends a message to their, to the algorithm. It sends a message to Facebook that you like this. It's going to send you more of this stuff. It's going to send you ads. I mean, just as simple. This isn't like conspiracy or even secret stuff. It's all, but we're never taught it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's the other opportunity, is like, if we can start teaching this as a part of, like, hey, maybe we don't need basic math and spelling because of ChatGPT. What are we going to do at that time at school? Hey, we're going to teach what marketing is, how social media works. We're going to teach how the algorithms of Google works. We're going to teach how the mechanisms of ChatGPT and other, right? Maybe we
Yeah,
open that to like teaching how that goes. So like there are going to be biases, and it is going to hallucinate and give you these answers that it says is complete, sounds like it's true, but we can kind of understand that we need our human filter on when we interact with this technology.
absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And I know we're running down on time, but
I give
that's
wandering
kind of
answers. I'm sorry. Yeah, I give you.
no,
Yeah,
but that's part of why Parent ProTech we're starting to develop content geared towards
yep,
students. That way we can dive a little deeper. Oh, the TikTok algorithm wants you, and every little bit of data they're collecting,
yep.
um, and kind of honing in on more digital citizenship, more awareness of what your kids are doing online. That's kind of the premise of what we've built. And so kind of to wrap things up, any last thoughts? How can people reach you? I'll add the link to your website when we
Yeah.
post it, but let's
No,
go.
well, I'm Matt Murray. I'm pretty easy to find. Matt Murray, Murrie, from a family of bad spellers, apparently. But yeah, because of that, I'm easy to find. Yeah, if you look up like "What If Curiosity" or the book "What If," I'm easy to find. Other than that, I think you nailed it too. With what you're doing with Parent ProTech, is you're really serving, filling this need for not just education, but understanding of this technology that's emerging and will continue to emerge. So yeah, the other advice is, I guess the other key word is just modeling. If you're a responsible adult, and especially if you're a parent, and then especially if you're a teacher and a parent, the best teaching you can do, what if the best teaching you can do is your actions, like, how you not just use this technology and this information, but how you go about understanding it and learning it is also a useful tool for teaching those around you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would definitely, in closing, definitely think everybody should hop on ChatGPT and play around with it.
Yeah, find out.
So
Yeah, it's not
yeah,
perfect, but that's what makes it useful. If it was perfect, it'd be weird. Yeah,
yeah.
it'd be a
Totally.
little. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, Matt, thank you very much.
yeah. Thank you. This is fantastic. Yeah.